Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Professor Philip Goodman. I'm here today to share 3 apparently supernatural incidents with you, all of which seem deeply troubling.
Hello? Is anyone there?
The spirit. The unquiet spirit.
Lights are on and nobody's home.
No, you're still there.
You don't believe, do you? The brain sees what it wants to see. My job is to try and untangle the truth from the fiction.
No.
My job is to explain the unexplainable.
Maria? The brain sees what it wants to see.
There's no color in the rain.
Wait, I don't like it.
You don't know everything, do you?
Right, where's my webcam? Hey up, hello Joshua. Sorry, I can't type a reply for some reason. It tells me to sign in, and I don't know why I'm not signed in. Stupid bloody internet. Yes, it's a really good film. Welcome to Friday Night Appointment with Fear. Number 29, and we're doing ghost stories. There's lots of film called Ghost Stories, isn't there? But this one is from 2017. It's a British film. Directed by, I've forgotten already, because I'm an idiot. Jeremy, somebody or other, Jeremy Dyson, that's it, and Andy Nyman. It's got a very League of Gentlemen, not League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, League of Gentlemen inside number 9 feel to it. And Jeremy Dyson used to write for League of Gentlemen, you know, the I forgot the names now. Reece Shearsmith and Steve Pemberton, that show. He used to write for that. And Andy Nyman used to work with Derren Brown, of all people. But anyway, this film is based on the 2010 stage play that they wrote and presumably performed. But I imagine that would be a pared-down version of this. But this is a really good film anyway, that's it. So let's just get on with it. What's that? Pretty too much. What's that? Oh, probably too much trailer, though. Yeah, well, I don't know. I was expecting the trailer to spoil more than it did. But it's not too bad. It's not too bad, is the trailer. It is a spooky film, I must admit. I've watched it tonight, obviously, before doing this. And in the daytime, no less. And I was still getting chills. But anyway, let's have an intro and we'll get on with it. I'm all fingers and thumbs today, by the way. Apologies, a really loud vehicle's just driven past. Princess me cat is keeping me company there, so I don't get too scared. There she is, in front of the TV. Oh, I forgot to set me graveyard ambience going. There we go. So let's have an intro and then we'll get on with it. Hey, live telly, yeah? Right, I'm back. I'll just make sure we are actually streaming. We must be, because Joshua said he saw the trailer, so yes. And it says excellent connection. Yay. Right, so let's get the film up and we'll start looking at it. As usual, I won't be just playing the film. I may play the odd snippet and, risk it, but we're just going a series of stills. By the way, it is available on Amazon Prime, in the UK at least. It's available on Amazon Prime. You can either buy it or rent it, or you can watch it free with ads. They do that freebie thing on Amazon Prime. But I've got the DVD, so I didn't bother. Right, anyway, so let's get the film up. Where have I put it? It's in here somewhere. Where the bloody hell is it? I've too much in this list. There we go. Right, so off we go. Let's start watching this film. Right, so IFC Midnight. I don't know what IFC stands for. As usual, like I say, films these days, they have about 80 million production companies behind them, don't they? Let's go through all these, look. Right, so we're off. I think this, by the way, this is a film with lots of numbers in it, and they do have meaning, but not the meaning you'd think. I thought it was going to be something really deep. When I first watched it, I thought, what, all these numbers that keep popping up, it's going to be something really deep and important. And it's not really, but anyway. By the way, this just goes into, and then it says the title, I think. Is it going to do it? No, it didn't, never mind. Right, so we see this. We see some curtains. It looks to be upside down. This is the first shot of the movie, and it's also the final shot of the movie. So there you go. That's a bit of a spoiler. Right, so off we go. So the opening credits is over there. It says Philip Goodman's Bar Mitzvah. Philip Goodman is the main character, played by Andy Nyman. He's a professor of, I think, psychology. And he's one of these, he's a debunker. And he goes around debunking psychics and, ghost stories and stuff like that. He's a non-believer. So he goes around debunking stuff like that. But we're seeing him as a kid here. I don't know who's filming this, by the way. I think he's filming some of it, supposedly. But obviously somebody else is filming his bar mitzvah. This is him there as a kid. I don't know if that's his mother or his sister. I don't know. But I think it's his sister. I pressed the wrong button then. Anyway, so we're seeing all this. That's his dad at his bar mitzvah. People don't seem to be having a very good time. But then the dancing starts and, as usual with family do's, there's fallings out. And here we are, we're seeing he gets on with his sister really well. And she falls in love with this Asian chap. By the way, it's a Jewish family, obviously, because it's a bar mitzvah. But she falls in love with this Asian chap. We never see him again. We don't know his name or anything. But there we go. Obviously, it causes eruptions, as they say, in the family. And I think his father throws her out. Which doesn't go down well. I think because of this, he doesn't get into any relationships himself, or he doesn't seem to. He lives alone. He's quite a solitary figure. But there we go. There he is grown up. That's Andy Nyman. And there we go. We see who is this psychic star? Mark Van Rees, I think that says. Psychic star. One of these on-stage psychics. Where they say, I'm getting a name from somebody or other, and and all that. Is there a Steph in the audience or whatever? And he's saying that, and then we cut backstage, and it's as though he's talking to cameras, like he's filming a TV show, because he did have a TV show in the film, not in real life. He did have a TV show going around debunking these psychics and stuff like that. So he's talking to camera, saying the psychic thinks they're there to film him, for a TV documentary, but we're actually here to debunk him. And they found out that he's got an earpiece in, and they're feeding him information about the members of the audience. So that's what they're doing there. So that's the poor woman he picks on, and what they do, it tells us that they hand out cards to all the audience as they're going in or something, and they fill them out and then hand them back in with information like the name and the name of the person they're trying to contact, from beyond the grave, and the details of how they died and stuff like that, which would be a red flag to me straight off if I were going to one of these shindigs. But anyway, So he's giving her all this information about her son who died of leukemia, and he's hamming it up, and then she's getting all upset. Look, but then Philip Goodman comes out and confronts him on stage. There she's crying. Philip Goodman comes out, confronts him, and tells the audience he's a fake, blah, 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 and security bundles him away. There you go. And obviously this poor woman's distraught, but that's just showing us what he gets up to. That's his day job. Right, so now we cut to some footage. I think this is supposed to be in the 1970s, I think. We've seen a chap called Charles Cameron, as you can see there. Can you see my mouse point? Yes, it's from a show called The Enigma of Charles Cameron, who was another paranormal investigator. There you go, Charles Cameron, psychologist. Can you see for me? Yeah, near enough. And he's going to this house with this elderly lady who appears to be blind, and apparently she's been possessed by spirits, notably the spirit of, I think, her husband, and the father of the daughter that she's living with. That's Charles Cameron. With some not overly convincing old age makeup. This is a really famous actor playing him, by the way, as we will see. So this is quite a humorous scene where she's basically talking in Dad's voice and picking on this daughter, saying some quite rude things. What's that? Cool. Reminds me a bit of Red Lights. Seeing that one. Oh, it rings a bell, does that? Rings a bell. Oh, by the way, I forgot to change me. I'm on green, aren't I? And I should be on red. It's Friday night appointment with Fear, not that old Yorkshire Geek News. So let's get the red one up. There it is. There, that's more spooky, innit? And we'll get the chat box up as well. And we'll see if the chats pop up. But Red Lights, yes, I think I have seen it, but I can't remember what happens in it. But it does ring a bell. I'm getting to that age now where every time I see a film, it's kind of like the first time I've seen it, because I can never remember what happens in films. Of course, I'm old. Anyway, right, where were we? There we go. Charles Cameron. Anyway, so he's talking to this woman, and she's speaking in this old man's voice, and then a vase shatters. And then let's go a little bit further. Or are we going to see it again? Yeah. Then he's talking to a vase shatters seemingly by itself, but then he's talking to the daughter, and a plate smashes, and then Charles Cameron says, "Actually, I did that myself," to debunk what's going on. That sometimes all is not what it seems, and the tagline for this film is the brain sees what it wants to see. So that's what this film's all about, basically. What's that? Cillian Murphy, Sigourney Weaver, and De Niro. It rings a bell. I have seen it, I think, but I can't remember what happens in it. Red Lights. Anyway, so he's still talking to camera, saying how he was a fan of this Cameron chap, and so that's it. And then he's looking at a news report that this Charles Cameron was supposed to have died in a car crash or something, or he went missing. That was it. Missing, presumed dead. His car crashed and his body was never found, and he was presumed dead. Anyway, so there we go. And then it cuts to, there we see that shot again of the curtains upside down, which is explained at the end of the film. Where were I? I've lost my train of thought now. All right, and then it cuts to like a regular film now. We're in like a normal narrative in the film. So there we go. So there he's at his desk writing away. The postman comes. There we go, and a package. Just Professor Goodman. So I presume it wasn't the postman. I presume it was whoever's sending this to him. If it is the postman, he's a really good postman, isn't he? Or the post office is really good at finding the addresses. Anyway, he opens it up, and there's a tape inside, a cassette tape, and a piece of paper with a photo on, apparently of, there you can see him, of Charles Cameron holding up, today's newspaper. It just happens to be the Times. He also just happens to have the Times on his desk, so he knows it's today's paper. So there we go. So he knows this is, from today. Is it today's or yesterday's or whatever? But he knows it's recent anyway. So he plays the tape, and it's the voice of Charles Cameron. Got a Scottish accent, and he's inviting him to come and see him. Saying, I am alive and all that. Come and see me. He gives him an address at a caravan park by the sea in Filey, which is also in Yorkshire, in North Yorkshire, but it's by the sea. So off he goes. There you go. Off he goes to Filey. I don't know if this actually is Filey. It could be. I don't know. I've been, but it was a long time ago. So off he goes to Filey. There you go. And there's a first example. I'll get rid of my fat head. When I find my webcam thing. There we go. First example of the numbers. You see it. Hang on. Mouse point. There we go. 92, 21, 48, 32. There's 10 numbers altogether. Well, no, there's 9 numbers altogether. The 10th number is also a factor in this film. But we keep seeing these numbers pop up, in the background and stuff like that. And they are there for a reason. Right, so anyway, off he goes. Anyway, he finds the caravan, and that's typical of the east coast of the UK, particularly the Yorkshire coast. Erosion. That's their footpaths. I remember when I was a kid, we once went to stay at a holiday cottage in a place called Skipsey, which isn't far from Filey. And I remember when we went there, part of the cottage had already collapsed into the sea. The cliffs had collapsed into the sea, and they'd had to rebuild. And then we went again a year later, and even more of the cottage had disappeared. So they'd moved the kitchen into one of the bedrooms. I bet it's not even there now. This were how old will I have been? Younger than 10. 10 at the most, so it's 45 years ago. But yeah, that's typical of the East Coast. So anyway, he finds there you go. He finds the caravan with number 79. That's an important number. Knocks on the door. No, he doesn't. I'm lying. He rings the bell, and there's a pause, and he rings it again, and he just wait a minute, and he hears a toilet flush. There he goes, and there's Charles Cameron. It's obviously somebody in old age makeup. It's not the best, is it? But it never is it? But it's good makeup. But you can tell it's somebody in makeup. Anyway, so there he is. He's obviously supposed to be ill, and we see he's not living the best life. Looks like my sink, to be honest. And there's obviously a bit of a whiff because he's just been to the toilet. And Philip Goodman goes, holds his nose a bit, and you hear flies buzzing about. So anyway, so they start talking. And Philip tries to palm off his latest book. I've signed it, and he says, I don't care, I don't give a toss. And he says, I've watched your TV show. Philip Cameron says, I've watched your TV show. It's shit. But it turns out he now believes Charles Cameron now believes that the supernatural is all real. He spent years debunking it, and now he's saying it's all real. And what he wants is Philip Goodman to change his ways, and he wants him to realise it's all real. And he gives him 3 cases that he could never solve. So, there he has a drink first before he starts. It throws him a folder with 3 cases in. And then, excuse me, and then we follow the cases. So there we go. But they have a bit of banter beforehand. There we go. There's the folder with the 3 cases that he wants him to investigate, and then get back to him and says, after this, he'll believe in the supernatural. So there we go. So he leaves Charles Cameron. What are you up to? She's gone on top of the fire to keep warm. It's not even that cold. Oh, that's this first spooky moment. As you see, he looks back and he sees Charles Cameron looking out through the window. Boop, and there's a figure standing behind him. I don't know what that's supposed to be, actually, but never mind. But it is spooky. So that's the first spooky incident, I suppose, of the film. So he's having a sit, having a think, watching the sea. And there's the three cases. So there we see there's Paul Whitehouse, who plays... Hang on, I'm going to have to look this up because I can't really remember the names of the people. Who plays Tony Matthews, and then there's Simon Rifkind, who's played by somebody else, Alex Lawther, and then the final case is Mike Priddle, played by Martin Freeman. Where have I put it? There we go. So they're the three cases, and they're all really, cool little stories because it's basically three stories, and then an overarching plot about Philip Goodman. So it's kind of an anthology tale. So I was having to think about this, and there he sees these kids on the beach, a couple of bullies and another lad watching, but we actually see these again later on. Remember, the brain sees what it wants to see, and he sees this kid picking on one of the others with a dead bird. And he's sort of like looking at them sadly, thinking back to his own childhood, and then a bag comes floating along. Oh, for God's sake! There we go. A bag comes floating along. Here it is. This is important for the film as well. Fine Fare. A Fine Fare bag. Fine Fare used to be a supermarket chain in the UK. It's not around anymore. It closed in 1988. I looked it up. So we have a flashback later on where this bag comes into... So obviously the flashback was before 1988. But anyway, there we go. Case 1, Tony Matthews. You can't see it from my head, never mind. But that's what it says. Case 1, Tony Matthews. So here we go. So Philip pulls up at a pub. Not a pub, it's a club, I think, called... is it a pub? I don't know. Called The 10th Number, which is important. There we go. Oh, you can't see it, never mind. I have to move this over. There you go, there it is. The 10th Number, that's the name of the pub. And you can see on the sign, there's a tunnel. And I can't actually make out the numbers. Can you hear me? Yes, I think the numbers are on there as well. On there. The numbers that we keep seeing pop up. There's 9 numbers, but the pub is called The 10th Number, which is explained later on in the film about the 10th number. So as you can see, there's like connections to be drawn in this film. So anyway, in he goes, and then we can see the numbers again popping up in the background. 79, 19. Always in the background. If you've noticed, there's a clock there. I don't know if we get a proper look at it, but every clock in this film is set for 3:45, either in the morning or in the afternoon. Every clock in the film is set to that time. For some reason. Anyway, so this is where we're introduced to Paul Whitehouse. If you don't know him, he's a famous comedian, comedy actor in the UK. Probably most famous for things like The Fast Show and Harry Enfield and stuff like that. But he's a good actor in his own right, and he's good in this as well. Anyway, Philip goes over and introduces him, and he's been a bit of a Cockney character, cold blimey governor and all that. But he's decided he doesn't want to talk about his experience he had. So Philip says, "Oh, did I mention there's a fee?" And he goes, £100. He says, "No, 50, deal." So they go over and sit down, and start talking. Philip's recording. There we go. They're going to sit down now. There's probably things in the background actually that I'm not paying attention to. I don't know, but I bet there is that I've not noticed. But anyway, starts asking questions like about his family and his, this all like personal stuff, and he's like saying, "What's that got to do? I thought you wanted to hear about my experience." So eventually he gets round to it, and then he goes, he's smoking a cigarette. But this is supposed to be set in the here and now, in 2017 anyway, when the film came out. Smoking wasn't allowed, I don't think, in pubs and clubs then. And there is a sign on the table that says no smoking, but he doesn't care. He doesn't care. Anyway, eventually gets round to his experience that he had, his supernatural experience. So this is when we do the first story. And we also learn that he had a wife. There's the money. Oh no, it is new money. When I watched it earlier on, I thought, them notes look, like this old money, but looking now, it does look like new money. This new silly plastic money that we've got now. I don't know what you've got in America, but this paper money is made of plastic now. But not that it were ever made of paper before. It were kind of cloth, really, wasn't it? But never mind. Anyway, there we are. We learn that Paul Whitehouse's character, Tony, there he is, was married. His wife died 23 years earlier of cancer, and his daughter, at some point, became had some sort of attack and became non-responsive, and what's called a lock-in. So she's like healthy but catatonic, if you know what I mean, like in a permanent vegetative state. But all the brainwaves and stuff are all okay, but she's just not doing anything. She just lied there in hospital. And he says he used to go and see her all the time, and then but apparently he hasn't been to see her for 5 years, or he hadn't been to see her for 5 years. Then he had his experience, and so then he went to see her after that. So that's his backstory. And then we start with The Tale of Terror, the first one, when he gets round to it. And by the way, he's a night watchman, or he used to be a night watchman. Here we go. It's like we're going to go into it now, doesn't it? Maybe, or maybe not. Go on, there we go. Right. There's a night watchman at a place that used to be an asylum, a lunatic asylum, or I don't know what in the old days they call them, like a bedlam, wouldn't there, or something like that. For not just for like people with mental disorders, but children born out of wedlock and stuff like that. Daft stuff. Anyway, so here we go. There's correction ward. There's a clue. So we see him. He's in being a night watchman. There's him, and there's apparently a Russian fella that's new, working in another part of the building. They're talking on the walkie-talkies, and the Russian fella keeps saying he doesn't like it there. It's there's something bad about this place, and he says, "Well, just sit tight and put a radio on or something." So he's going to, but Tony's going to go on his rounds. So you can see it is quite spooky and dark and derelict. So anyway, so off he goes. He says, I'm going to do my rounds after his chat with the Russian fella. Then all the lights go off for some reason. The generator's miles away, obviously. So he gets his torch and... oh no, I'm lying. I'm thinking of something else. No, the generator's just round the corner, and he switches it on. He sees they've been unplugged. That's it. And he plugs it back in, and he gets back on the walkie-talkie. He says, "Are you messing about?" And no, it's over the other side of the building or whatever. So it's another spooky incident. Then we see his cup has appeared in the doorway. Obviously not where he left it. So obviously spooky shenanigans are going on. So anyway, he's going to do his rounds. So he says he'll be back in a few minutes. The lights have gone off again. Electric's being unplugged. So he calls out. He says, he thinks somebody's playing with him. He says, I'm coming now, get you, and all that. I think it's probably kids or whatever. So he's going to go on his rounds that he's supposed to do. So there we go. Off he goes. And he goes down this long, dark corridor. And there's another generator. He goes, we found another generator. Oh, by the way, we see a spooky hand here. Are you ready? I think it's this bit. I'll just have to play and pause. Actually, this bit, it actually took me out of it a little bit because it's supposed to be from his point of view. But if it's from his point of view, he didn't see this. If you were it's in that bit now. Anyway, he gets to this place and he plugs the generator in so the lights come on. See, I'm sure I've missed it. Where is it? There's a bit where a spooky hand appears. Obviously, it's not this bit. I thought it was this bit. Maybe it was a ghost I saw on the film. Not a real hand. Hey. Come on. By the way, there's a lot of homages, in my opinion, in this film to other, TV shows and movies and literature, spooky literature. And this first one kind of reminds me of Night of the Demon, which we've done. We've done on Friday Night Appointment with Fear. When I see this bloody hand, we're not going to show it, are they? Never mind. Right, so he plugs the lights in. So off he goes on his rounds down this long corridor. There's lots of doors on the sides with numbers on, obviously. That's to check, and they're all like chained up. There he is. There's the last one, number 92. Got a big chain on the door, and it must be the end of his rounds, or the far end of his rounds, because he's got a little chair there, and he's got a little tin of cigarettes. So obviously gets to the end of his round, has a cigarette, and then sets off back. That's what he's going to do. There we go. Then he hears a noise. I think all the lights go off. That's it. All the lights go off behind him. So he goes back. I think it basically runs back to his what they call it, his office. And he's hearing all strange noises coming from the radio and stuff, and the Russian fella's not responding to him. So he's getting scared now. Then he hears a knock on the door. So he's like, and he's actually doing that. He's going, as you would, because he's terrified. And he opens the door. There's nobody there, obviously. And then he gets his light. Then he sees that at the end of the down at the bottom of the big room. I'm like, there's a figure there. And he actually looks to move as he goes towards it. There he goes, it moves from left to right. But then when he gets to it, he says, what are you doing? What are you playing at? And he gets to it, there you go, it's just a mop. But it obviously wasn't, was it? It was actually a real thing. I'm getting the willies, I'm getting the chills now. It was actually, something spooky going on. But once he gets there, it's just a mop and, something. So it's good to go checking stuff out again. This might be where we see the spooky hand in a minute. We're going to see it. Right, it goes back, plugs the power back in. Actually, one of them were broken, as you can see there. One of the power things is broke, so something's broken one of the power leads. So he heads down to the bottom, back to that last room, and the chain sort of like undoes itself and falls off. There you go, like that. Don't know where that spooky hand was. It's on his way. It's either the first time he goes or this time, but obviously it's not landed on it, has it? Where see if I can find it. Oh, here we go. I'm going to see it this time. Look. So it's basically, it's like a same shot as before when he went this way, but this time we're going to see a spooky hand. There you go. Oh, can you see it? Hang on, let me move this. There you go. There's the spooky hand. That appears. Oh, for God's sake. That appears. There it is, look. And I said that gives me a bit of an homage, in my opinion, to Night of the Demon. We saw that a couple of times in that film, Night of the Demon, where, a disembodied hand appears. But as I said, if it's been told from his point of view, we wouldn't have seen that, would he? So, never mind. Never mind, it's just to add to the ambience. So anyway, so he goes down to the last door again. And the chain comes off. Is it the last door? Is it number 79? Last one was 92, wasn't it? I think this is number 79. But I thought it was the last one. Maybe not. Doesn't matter. It opens anyway, the door. And he goes inside, puts the light on. And we see there's all these around the wall. These mannequins around the wall. Which is spooky enough in itself. So he's got his hammer in his hand, by the way, because he's ready to brain somebody. So here he is looking round all the mannequins. And there he sees that in the corner. And it moves, obviously, as we watch. There you go. So he thinks, all right, got you now. So it goes over. And it's just another mannequin. It's just another mannequin. So So he's like, oh, what's going on here? You know, because it did move. We saw it move. But then again, we saw that other thing move, and that ended up just being a mop, didn't it? But then the door closes behind him. I've got to keep playing it on this bit because stuff happens, you know, rapid fire succession. But every time I skip, it does like 10 seconds, so I'll probably miss it. So we'll see how we go on. Make sure the live stream's still going, because you've got to be careful with this sort of thing. Yeah, it is still going. Come on, there you go. The door closes and he runs over, and the light goes off. And his torch, by the way, his flashlight. I keep calling it a torch. We call them torches here, but over there you call them flashlights, don't you? In America land, it keeps going off. We saw him earlier on having to, you know, whack it to make it come back on again. And that happens this time. And when he puts it, when it comes back on, see, it goes off and it comes back on. He gets the fright of his life. Are you ready? Here she comes. Ding, there she is. A spooky ghost girl with a big hole in her head. So he goes, ah! And she's got a dead bird in her hand. Remember, we see dead birds a few times in this film. That's another motif that they go over again and again. Anyway, he's terrified. He just stands there, he's petrified, and she puts her hands round him. And she's like saying, you know, Daddy, or whatever, something like that. And the hands go up. And this actually gives me, I'll go back a bit. This actually gives me, you know, reminds me of the BBC ghost stories for Christmas, The Lost Hearts. This actually gives me the, you know, the chills of that with the ghost kids with the really long fingernails. That's what she's doing there. But, there you go. She puts her hand in his fingers in his mouth, and he's actually the noise he's making is from another ghost story, TV ghost story. Whistle and I'll Come to You, or is it Come for You? Whistle and I'll Come to You by M.R. James, but the 1968 version, starring Michael Hordern. He starts making noises here as the fingers are going on his face. He's like going, as you probably would. And that's the same sort of noises that Michael Hordern made when he saw the ghost in Whistle and I'll Come to You. So anyway, so she's... see, I've gone too far now. There we go. So her fingers are going in his mouth and he's freaking out. Obviously survived. You know, he didn't kill him or anything like that. He survived because he's telling the tale. But this is his ghost story, and obviously she's disappeared or whatever, and he's run out screaming. It just ends there, as we see. He's like, so I'll see if I can play a bit of sound, see if we can hear it. No, it went off just then. Never mind. So back to this window with the upside down curtains that we keep seeing. It's very important. Right, so next up we're in a church, and there you go, the Holy Bible. And Philip's gone to see Tony's priest. I don't know who's played by it. Let's have a look. Where is he? Father, is that him? Yep, Father Richard Emery, played by Cobner Holdbrook Smith. There we go. I've never seen him in anything, I don't think, but anyway. So it says he's not willing to talk about, you know, he needs some confidentiality, you know. He can't talk about his parishioners, you know, without their consent. And Philip says, well, I have got his consent, but, you know, if you'd rather some more oblique questioning, so he asks, you know, more sideways questions about Tony and his life, and the priest says, you know, the incident, you know, whether it happened or didn't happen, it made Tony change his way of life. You know, it changed his life around, and he went to see his daughter again in hospital and all that stuff. Didn't stop smoking or drinking though, did he? But anyway, it says it made him a better person. And he berates. You can't see him, can you? In that, hang on, let me move it. Oh, probably see him again in a minute. There'll be a close up. There we go. He berates Philip, you know, because he's a scientist, and Philip tells him, says, well, we need, you know, we're a scientist, we need, you know, evidence and empirical evidence. And the priest says, well, you know, basically says you've got to have faith and all that. Not everything can be proven and stuff like that. So anyway, so he goes and so they have their little contretemps, not a blazing row, but they have a disagreement about how to look at the universe. But obviously it's affected Philip because he's gone now to see his dad. His dad's obviously in some sort of care home. He seems unresponsive. There he is. He's just sitting there, basically drooling. And we see Philip with tears in his eyes. So I don't know how long it's been since he's seen his dad. But obviously that story's affected him. So he's gone to see his dad. But they kind of gloss over this now. So that's the end of that. Case 2, Simon Rifkind. Right, so another number, 20. It's also another thing that reminds me of Inside Number 9. If you're not familiar with that, it's a BBC TV series by Steve Pemberton and Reece Shearsmith. And they're like spooky supernatural tales in a comedic style, but in like dark comedy, like League of Gentlemen, stuff like that. But they always start with a number on the door. There's usually number 9. That's why it's called Inside Number 9. But some of them are excellent. If you can find them, I don't know if they're available overseas or whatever. There must be, because it's one of the best shows that the BBC makes. If you can find them, watch them. They're excellent. I think they're about 4 seasons in, I think. They're only like 6 episodes per season or something like that. And a couple of Christmas specials. Watch them. Anyway, right, so here at Simon Rifkin's house. So he knocks on the door. There he is. That's Simon Rifkin's. A young lad. Late teens, early 20s. Don't know how old he's supposed to be. So he asks, can you prove who you are? He shows him the letter from Charles Cameron. So he lets him in. So immediately we start with spooky stuff. Lots of locks on the door. He goes upstairs. He says, "Mum, I'm going upstairs." And then we hear a noise from the kitchen. And then we see his mother just standing there doing nothing, staring at the wall. And as he looks, as he looks again, go back again. Oh, for crying out loud. He looks closer. We see, I presume it's his father there. They're just standing there staring at the wall. So, are they ghosts? I don't know. I had this thing, imagine, when I first watched it, thinking, Simon's killed his parents, and these are the ghosts of his parents, and I don't know what's going on, to be honest. And it's weird stuff happening in this house. Oh, you can't see. Hang on. Oh, there you go. There they are. Standing staring at the wall. I presume that clock is set for 4:45. Yes, it is. 3:45. There it is. I can't see. There you go. There I can. There you go. Set for 3:45. All the clocks are set for 3:45. By the way, 3:45 was the time in the morning when the previous chap had his encounter with the ghost. That was the time that happened, at 3:45 in the morning. Right, so anyway, so as that happens, he sees them standing there, it's all spooky, and then the door slams by itself, as we'll see there. Here it goes, bang, door slams. So he goes upstairs. He sees this picture on the wall. Right, another important, almost 3:45 here in Texas. Oh, crikey. Spooky. Yes, it is, yes, spooky. Anyway, right, he sees this picture on the wall. Let me just move that over so you can see it a bit better. We meet these characters later on in the film. I don't know why it doesn't make more of it, because obviously it does recognise it. A bit of it's covered in dust. And he rubs away the dust, and we see this character here, who we later find out is called Callahan. I don't know what they're called. These are 2 bullies. And that is young, spoilers, that is young Philip. So this is obviously an image from his past. How has it ended up in a photo on Simon Rifkin's wall? As I said, weird stuff is happening in Simon Rifkin's house. It all gets explained. It all gets explained by the end. Right, so sees that and thinks, ooh, cracky, and heads upstairs. But no, Simon's nowhere to be seen. He doesn't know where to go. Lots of doors. He hears a noise upstairs, so he goes further up the stairs and he sees somebody walk past. Yeah, walk past that door. Somebody in hospital gowns, by the look of it, or what they call them, scrubs. That's the word, isn't it? Hospital scrubs. That makes sense later on. But anyway, Simon appears. Let's see, I've gone too far again. These 10-second jumps, and he looks, and then Simon's standing behind him. It says it's this way, and Philip asks him, "Who's upstairs?" And then Simon says, "Nobody. There's just us." But anyway, so that's spooky. It's got all this stuff on these walls showing, demons and horned beasts. There's a reason for that as we learn his tale. So he says, so he asks him, what's his story then? And by the way, it's really hot in there for some reason. Oh, princess, behave yourself. God, bloody hell, she made a noise. Bloody chat myself then. Bloody cat. It's really hot in there. He says, why is it so hot in here? And he says, I like it like this, but doesn't explain it. There's Sooty and Sweep on the wall. He says to Simon, there's all this scary stuff on his wall. When he wants to feel better, he just looks at that. Right, so he starts telling his story, and the thing we've got to learn is that he was driving without a licence. So off we go into his tale in a minute. Oh, that's when he asks who's upstairs, and he says, I saw somebody. He says, go check, there's nobody there. That's when he does that, and then they talk again. Right, so off we go. By the way, yeah, he's kind of weird, isn't he? He's kind of weird. He's obviously a very emotional young man. Right, his tale begins. He's driving through the woods in his dad's car. Remember, he hasn't got a licence, but he's told his dad he's passed his driving test. He's in the car, driving through the woods. Apparently he's been to a party. I don't know if that's true or not, or if he's just out for a drive. I don't know. But his phone rings, and he answers it, and it's his mum. Says, "Where are you?" Says, I'm nearly home. I've been to a party. I'm on my way home. And then his dad comes on the phone, and actually he hangs up on his mum. Then his phone rings again, and he answers it. And it's his dad this time. How dare you hang up on your mother? And he tries to make out, it's bad signal and all that. And his dad's going on at him, says, I bet you haven't even passed your driving test, have you? I bet you lied about that, because you lied about your job and all this. And so he gets upset there and hangs up on his dad. But then he hits something, as you can see there. He hits something in the road, and he screams and comes to a halt, and he goes out to check, and he daren't look, but there's, as we see, it's some sort of satire-like creature, like a Krampus or something, a mini Krampus. There we go. It's like a goat's head with horns and a human-like body. So he thinks, bloody hell! So he gets back in the car and drives off, as you would. But then the car conks out. There we go. Just all goes off. So he's stuck in the woods. And then we have an homage to Evil Dead. Is this going to be it? Probably not. Might be later. His car conks out. Here we go. Here's the homage to Evil Dead. There you go. Boo. There we go. I wonder if they did it the same way as well, because remember on the Evil Dead, they didn't have Steadicam, did they? Because they couldn't afford it, so they just fastened the camera to a plank of wood, didn't they? And just ran through the woods with the camera on a plank of wood. Anyway, he's trying to get a signal through, but he can't. He's sitting in the car. Oh, hang on, who's that? Hello, is that I can't bloody see. I can't read that right. It's too small. I'll have to have a look on this one. Harry at me. I'm new here. Hello. Welcome to the show. Hope you're enjoying it. Me waffling on about scary films. Where were I? Right, he's trying to get a signal through. on his phone, but there's no signal, so he's got to get out of the car and, you know, lift up the phone, which he's doing there. But then there you go. I think he finally gets through. There he goes, looking round. You know, he's terrified. He finally gets a signal, and he phones up, and phones the breakdown service, and gets through to him, and he tells them, you know, what's happened. His car's broken down, and they say, we've got your GPS. We know where you are. We'll be there between 10 and 45 minutes. So there we go. So he gets back in the car, thinks he's safe in the car. But, then something pops up at the window. By the way, there's a little mini breakdown first, by the way. Oh, pardon me, I'm burping. Let's have a drink of water before we carry on. Hey dear. Where Princess is? Where is she? She's there. She's cleaning herself. Has a little mini breakdown, and then something appears at his window. I'm loath to use the skip because I'll probably miss it. But, he's trying to compose himself, as you can see. Oh, get on with it. Oh, the car, there's a thump on the car. There you go, that's what happens there. And I think something appears at the window. There you go. Ah, he's like, crikey. That made him jump. Freaks out. And then the beast appears at his window in a minute. When he looks back round again. Don't know what... Oh, he gets this atlas and rolls it up for a weapon. Oh, for God's sake. Let's just do that. Is it coming again? Oop, pressing the wrong button. Right, it appears at his window. There it is. It's there. And it climbs up on the roof. There we go. It's up on his roof trying to get in. And then somehow the back door of the car opens. And it gets in. And he hears it getting in. And he tries to get out. And then a hand goes on his shoulder. It says, says something like, don't leave or stay or something like that. And he goes, not fucking likely. Right, funny. And he gets out of the car and runs off into the woods. Obviously, with the thing in hot pursuit. And then he hides behind this tree stump. But then the tree stump comes to life. As we'll see. There we go. Obviously, some woodland sprite spirit thing going on, isn't it? Then I think we just hear him scream. There we go. And that's his tale. Obviously, he survived, though, hasn't he, to tell the tale. But that's his story. And then we cut to daytime, and Philip's checking out the area. Simon must have remembered exactly where he was, because Philip's arrived there. So he goes checking in the woods. He finds the tree stump, and as we see, although it is a kind of a spooky shape, and it does have kind of a human form when we see it. There we go. It's like a hunched form, I suppose, isn't it? Philip says, well, this is it, Joshua. Or did he? So Philip's on his recorder thing, and he's saying, to Charles Cameron, he says, I've checked out 2 of your cases, and the first one, Tony's obviously, got, alcohol problems and stuff like that, and emotional problems, and Simon's obviously a very fragile character, and they've just, imagined it all, basically. That's what he's saying. So he heads off back to his car. We get one last look at the tree stump. I thought something was going to happen, but it doesn't. So he goes back to his car. And there we go. And he sees himself in the car. He's in a ghostly form. There we go. Sees himself there. With his hand up on the window. So he's like, ah! So that's freaky. So he's having experiences himself now, look. But as he opens the door, obviously, there you go, it disappears. So he's thinking, what's going on here? Right, case 3, Mike Priddle. This is Martin Freeman. There we go, we see him in the middle of the moors. This might have been shot in Yorkshire, actually, because it's like a screen Yorkshire film. So we've had Filey that's in Yorkshire. I don't know where Simon's tale happened, or Tom, Tony, what's his face. But this could be Yorkshire as well, because we do have moors and stuff like that in Yorkshire. Very Bronte-esque, isn't it? Heathcliff and all that. Anyway, so he's walking. Him and Philip and Mike Priddle are walking across the countryside. And it's Mike. I don't actually know what he does, but he's well-to-do. Some sort of landowner. I don't know. But it's telling him about his life and his wife, and they wanted a kid, and his wife's died, and the kid, I don't know what happened to the kid, it doesn't explain it. He's very brusque, and he laughs goes like that. He's one of them sort of laughs, and but he's the sort of chap that you think nothing bothers him, nothing phases him. Keeps getting phone calls, keeps interrupting him. So anyway, they carry on walking. And they head into this little shed. Don't know what's supposed to be in there. But as he opens it, I do know what's in there. There's a shotgun in there. As he opens it, there you go. You see some numbers. There you go. The numbers again on the back of the door. Gets this shotgun out. Oh, there's a couple of shotguns, but he just gets one out. And they carry on walking. And we see a figure in the background, by the way. That might be afterwards. So he tells him his tale. So there we go. So, right, it's telling him about the birth of his child and his wife. She had a bad pregnancy, and she ended up in hospital. So there was nothing they could do, at the time. She was in hospital. So he went back home, and he said, well, 3:45, obviously. So he goes home, and then we see his wife there in photos. They're both business people. He wanted kids. They'd been married a while, and he wanted kids, but she didn't want kids until she was promoted to a directorship or something of the company she worked for. And then that happened. So then she was, she said, okay, I'll have a kid now. But by this time she's 40, so she's, the clock's ticking, as they say. So she does get pregnant, but obviously there's complications, and she's in hospital with these complications, and he's been sent home. There's nothing he can do at the moment. So he goes home. Obviously, it's a modern flashy house, because they're obviously very wealthy. Probably somewhere in North Yorkshire, because that looks like, the Settle to Carlisle Railway? That looks like, might not be, I don't know. There you go, a modern flashy house. There's a dripping tap that he can't fix, or he tries to fix. But anyway. Right, so this is obviously the nursery. It's very sterile looking. This is the nursery that's for their new baby that's going to arrive. We see the doll there. And there's a mobile, and there's that behind him. That's where the nappies are kept, what they call them, diapers are kept, and stuff like that, stuff for the baby, all that's kept. That's a changing table, isn't it? That's what I'm trying to say. So he's in there, and what happens then? Have I missed it? No, I haven't. So he's wandering about, he's set off the mobile, and he goes back over there, checks out a diaper or two, looks back at the spooky doll, and goes back over to the doll, and as he's doing that, some of the diapers fly off this. As he touches the doll, diapers fly off the changing table. So he thinks, how did that happen? He checks the door for drafts. Obviously, there's no drafts, so that's weird. Then as he's picking up the diapers, there we go. All these bottles on top just suddenly stack themselves in a supernatural way. Are you ready? Here they go, like that. Cool, eh? So, and then we cut back to Philip. He says, "You actually saw that happen." There you go. You actually saw that happen. He says, "Yeah, in front of me, very eyes. I don't know how to explain it." So anyway, they carry on walking. I think he'd been back to hospital. His wife was still very ill in hospital. She hadn't had the baby yet, and he was sent back home again. So he goes back home again. at 4:15 again. And then we see a figure. There's a figure that we start seeing more often in the film now. This is, we learn, is a person called Callahan, Kojak, nickname Kojak. There we go. So, he's somebody of importance. So it's telling more of his tale, that his wife was still ill. Cut back to the story. So he's sent back home again. Anyway, he's asleep there, and he hears noises coming from upstairs in the nursery. So he goes to check, and this is another homage to a bit more blatant this time to "Whistle and I'll Come to You." As he goes in, he sees the cot. This is as he's watching. There you go. He sees the cot. And the sheet in the cot is moving about by itself. There you go. You can see it moving about by itself in a spooky way. That happens at the end of Whistle and I'll Come to You. The sheets on the bed start moving about by themselves in a spooky way. That's a blatant homage to that. And he sees that and is like, dumbfounded, what's happened. And then gets really cold. You see his breath, and then some flowers sort of like dissolve into, die really quickly, and the petals fall to the floor. Here we go. Yeah, that happens there. And as they fall to the floor, he looks down. That's his breath. He looks down. He sees a pair of feet, and it's his wife. His wife's there. There she is, standing. Oh, you can't see her. There she is, standing in the corner. Is that all blood? I think that's all blood on her there. So anyway, what apparently has happened is, the birth hasn't gone well, and I think both her and the kid have died. I think the kid's died. It doesn't make it exactly clear, but she's died anyway, so we're seeing her ghost. And then we get I keep calling it homage. Some people call it rip-off. I'll say homage to The Woman in Black, but not the new version. The 1988 TV version, obviously based on the Susan Hill book, but the 1988 TV version, written by Nigel Neal of Quatermass fame. But this is that homage to that. The most famous scene in that, as we'll see. For God's sake. She comes up and screams to him. See, I've gone too far. Look. There we go. There we go. She comes into his face, gets right in his face, a screaming banshee of a ghostly person. So that's scary. That happens in the 1988 Woman in Black, by the way. So then we cut back to the moors, and they're sitting down on some rocks. He's there with his shotgun, and then I forgot his name. What's his name? I can't remember. Martin Freeman. Decides to blow his brains out with the shotgun. You ready? There you go. Bang. There you go. As Philip watches. And then next thing we see, Philip's driving away. So did he call the police or what? I don't know. He's driving away. Just watched a man kill himself. So he's heading back to Charles Cameron's caravan. There we see. This is where it all starts getting weird now. Are you ready? But he's obviously shook up, but he's still saying that there's nothing supernatural going on. He says there's nothing in these files that can't be explained. Everything can be explained. And Charles Cameron gets out of bed and says, the brain sees what the brain wants to see. And nothing is exactly as it seems. And Philip says, no, everything is exactly as it seems. So then this is where we see there we go, the mask. The mask is ripped off, and we see Philip Cameron, and he pulls the mask off, is actually, what's his face? What's the name of this character? It's Martin Freeman, but the character, I forgot already. Martin Freeman, where are you? Casting order of appearance. Mike Priddle, that's it. Mike Priddle. So we see Charles Cameron and Mike Priddle are one and the same. Or did Charles Cameron actually die and this is just Mike Priddle? I don't know. It doesn't really matter when you get to the end. So we see, there you go. So we're thinking, what's going on here? He stands up and he just pulls his pyjamas off, and he's got his lovely suit on. Just pulls his pyjamas off, and his suit's there, all lovely. And then there you go. He gets his hands, spits on his hands, and goes like that. And his hair's all immaculate. You ready? It's obviously done in reverse. You ready? He obviously roughed his hair up, didn't he? But they show it in reverse. So you think something's going on here. But anyway, he says obviously all is not what it seems, and then he points to the window, and he shows that all is not what it seems. Remember, they're supposed to be in the caravan in Filey, but then he just puts his finger through reality and rips reality apart. Opens it up. There we see there's a wall and a door. The caravan's sort of like melted away, so they go through the door, but he won't go. Let's see, they've still got the caravan around him, but in front of him it's a wall and a door. He says, "Come in, there'll just be you, me," I think it says Barty. I don't know who Barty's supposed to be. Oh, no, I do know who Barty is. Yeah, we meet Barty. You meet Barty, and you know who, which turns out to be Callahan. So anyway, drags him in, the door shuts, pull away, and then they're on a railway line suddenly. So, and then we see, you can just see in the background, there's Callahan there in the background, pulling the wrong bit. Oh, what happened there? How did that happen? Oh, pause, you bloody thing. There you go. You see Callahan there in the background. And my son's here now. Told him I was doing a show, but he doesn't care.
What I did.
What do you want?
This fell up.
Yes, I know, because I stopped to stop Princess going upstairs and bothering you.
Oh. Sorry.
Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. My son's just here to interrupt us.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, all right. Where were we? We see there's Callahan there behind him, standing motionless. And Mike Priddle is explaining that, things aren't all what they seem. I think he's supposed to be the devil. I think that's what it boils down to. I think Mike Priddle is the devil. But he's giving him a dressing down, saying, you spent your life debunking all this stuff, and it's all real. You're a lonely man, a lonely, sad man who's got no joy in his life, blah, blah, blah. Then he goes over to, we see a cot, a child's cot. Later, not yet. First off, he heads off into the woods, and Mike says, "I don't want to go," but there we see Callahan watching. So I don't want to go, and Mike Priddle just like that, and walks off, and obviously he follows him. And there we're at this tunnel. You all right? You all out of breath for?
I'm in the toilet. Not funny.
Yes, it is. So, don't do it too, then. What's up here?
Itchy as well.
Tell you. My son, out of breath going to the toilet. Where were we? Right, so we see this tunnel here with the NF81. NF is National Front. That used to be a right-wing political group in the UK in the 70s and 80s. Anyway, we see this tunnel. There's the fine fair bag from earlier on, a couple of car seats. Anyway, so here's Philip heading that way. And then we see those two lads we saw on the beach, and we saw in the photo, remember? So there they are. The lad in red is trying to force this dead bird onto his friend. Anyway, they see Philip, and they call him over, and he says, "I can't, I've got to go home for my tea." So he's acting like a kid. You notice he's suddenly got a school uniform on, look. They call him over. Then he transforms into the child form of, Philip. And so, anyway, these bullies, they make him, hold a bottle in front of his face while they're going to throw stones at him, because the bad uns. The bullies, but then Callahan arrives. There he is. You can't see him. Hang on, move that a little bit. There he is. They call him Kojak. He's a lad with, with mental difficulties. is, what's the word? Special needs. He's a special needs lad. I should know that. I've got him myself, haven't I? You've just seen him. Well, you haven't seen him, but you heard him. You saw his hand appear on my shoulder, spookily. Anyway, so Callahan arrives, basically saves Philip from getting a bottle smashed in his face. Anyway, so they call him over and said they can be in their gang if he goes into the tunnel. And if he goes into the tunnel, there's 10 numbers. Remember the 10 numbers? There's 10 numbers, and he's got to go down the tunnel with a flashlight and shout the numbers. And when he gets to the 10th, if he shouts that one, he can come back and he can be in their gang. But Philip says there's no 10th number. Remember the 10th number was the name of that pub. There's no 10th number, but they tell him to shut up or they'll beat him up. So anyway, Callahan says, I'll go in. I want to be in your gang. So obviously, he's easily led, poor lad. There's the first number 6. Oh, you can't see, you can just see it there. So they give him a torch, / flashlight, and in he goes into the tunnel. Philip tries to, intervene, but they don't let him. They threaten to beat him up. So in he goes, and he's calling the numbers out as he goes. And then he gets halfway, and he says, "I want to come out." And says, "Well, you won't be in his gang. You've got to go. We won't let you out." And there he goes. He's threatening to get Philip with a broken bottle. Anyway, Callahan gets so far down, the tunnel's getting smaller, and he has he's asthmatic, so he has an attack, and as he goes in, he has an attack and collapses, and they hear him sort of like struggling, and then it goes all quiet, so they get scared and they run off, and Philip looks, he calls him, don't call him Kojak, they call him Kojak to the others, oh, pardon me. Philip calls him by his name, and obviously he doesn't reply, and so he gets scared and he runs off as well. And we learned that Callahan actually died. He had an asthma attack and he died in that tunnel there. So Philip says, it wasn't my fault. I was just a kid and all that. He said, well, you could have gone in after him. He says, well, I was scared and blah blah blah. It wasn't my fault. He's trying to absolve himself from responsibility, but Martin Freeman, I can never remember the name of the character. Martin Freeman is the devil, I'm going to call him. Says, you just don't understand. So then we see the cot. That's Barty. I presume this is supposed to be... I'm going to have to look up the name of the character again. Why can't I remember names? Mike Priddle. Why can't I remember that name, Priddle? It's obviously supposed to be Mike Priddle's son. The baby that killed his wife because... that's what he said, split her in half. That's what he said. That's why we saw all blood. And, Priddle. So that's Barty. So maybe Barty didn't die. I don't know. But anyway, so he making noises. So he picks him up. And he's nursing him. It's obviously all weird shape, and there's a hint of like hooves and stuff. So it's obviously some demonic baby. And there's all poo or whatever at the bottom of the baby. But they're still talking about how the brain sees what it wants to see and all that. And he tells him to shush because the baby's asleep. And then Philip collapses, and then it's confronted by Callahan, and Callahan removes his hood. That's first up though. First up, he grabs his coat, pulls his coat off, and then we see he's in a hospital gown. And then we see Callahan, what he looks like. Obviously not very nice looking because he's dead. Rosemary's Baby. Well, yeah, could be Rosemary's Baby reference. Homage! I wonder if he had his father's eyes. I don't know. Anyway, they do another tear in reality. There you go. It pulls the backdrop down. They're in a tunnel. Dragging him to some curtains. And there we go. There's a hospital bed. So he pushes him onto the hospital bed. And basically just lies with him on the hospital bed. Then screams. So he's getting his retribution, I suppose you could say. And then we see, there you go, shoves his fingers in his mouth, just like the ghost did to Tony. What's his face? And then we cut, and he's got all the tubes and stuff in his mouth. And this is actually reality now. This is reality. Usually, I hate films like this when they end like this, but I didn't mind it in this case. So we see he's in a hospital bed, and then here we go. Simon Rifkin comes in. Seems he's some sort of nurse or junior doctor. He's checking on. He's on phone to his. I think he's on phone to his dad. I think. He's on the phone. He said, "I've got to go. I'm at work." And then Priddle comes in. He comes in. He's obviously the consultant, because they call him Mr. Priddle. In British hospitals, the consultants are called Mr. The doctors are doctors, nurses are nurses. So he comes in and is, checking him out and all that. His eyes are dilated, the lights are on, but nobody's home, he says. And apparently, he's trying to take his own life in his car. I think he's, a hose in the from the exhaust into the car. He's trying to take his own life, and he's ended up in a coma, sort of a lock-in. He's a lock-in that we mentioned earlier on with Tony, what's his face's daughter. So that's the condition he's in. So basically, all the people that we see in the stories are all people that are coming into his hospital room, and it's all going on in his head. It's all in his mind. Even down to Tony. So they're saying he's going to be like this forever, he's stuck like this now, which kind of reminded me of that Metallica song, One. That's about a fella locked in his own mind, because apparently his mind's working, his body's not moving or anything, his mind's racing over time, doing all these fantasies and, the guilt for what happened in his youth. What happened to Callahan? Oh, that's going on forever. He's in his own personal hell, basically, isn't he? So we see him, he's there. Here comes Tony. He's the janitor, mopping up. So he has a quick mop round, calls him Sunbeam. And then he moves there we go, moves the little mirror, put the mirror across, give him a different view, because he's just staring up at the ceiling, because you notice his eyes were open, staring up at the ceiling. And so he adjusts the view. So off he goes. So see you tomorrow. So he's obviously been in there, at least a day. Purgatory. Yeah, same ideas. His own personal hell, isn't it? Like I say, his own purgatory. Anyway, the camera moves towards him. We see him as just like that. And there we go. That's the view we keep seeing. So that's what he can see. Just the upside down curtains on the window. And as we look, you ready? Poof, a bird hits the window, obviously kills itself. So that's the bird that we kept seeing. And that's the end of the film. There you go. There you go. I really like that film. I don't usually like ghost and spooky films that end with it all not being spooky and ghostly. But I suppose it could be. It could be, because everything he's seeing is something that's not yet happened, hasn't it? The bird killing itself hadn't happened, but yet he kept seeing dead birds in his visions, didn't he? So that's it. I suppose it's open to interpretation. But it is a really good film. I do enjoy it. One of my favourite ghosty films, and I do like anthology films. I've done them before in this Friday Night Appointment with you. I do like anthology films. They're a lot of fun. Different stories. Very solid. Better than what's that? St. Elsewhere. I never saw St. Elsewhere. I never saw that. Anyway, so yeah, it's a really good film. That's it's based on a stage play. I can't imagine what the stage play were like, because as I said, this has been in the woods and all these different scenes. So I don't know how they did it on stage, unless there were different stories. It's just loosely based on it. I don't know, because obviously I've not seen it. But there are nice little homages into other films and literature. There's, as I said, there's M.R. James and Susan Hill and Evil Dead in it. And as you said, Rosemary's Baby, throw that in as well. And all this other stuff. And but yeah, it's a really good film. I really enjoy it. So check it out. In the UK, it's on Amazon, so you can watch it on Amazon for free with ads. I don't know about elsewhere. I don't know about elsewhere. You'll have to check. So, but give it a go. It's a lot of fun. It's a good spooky film that's funny in places, and but it's a good story as well. It's a good overall story. As I said, I don't usually like them when they end when it's not real. It's like a Scooby-Doo ending to me, where they pull the mask off and it's Old Man Smithers from the Haunted Amusement Park and all that. It's one of them sort of endings that I never really liked. What was that? What was it? Is it An American Haunting? That film with Donald Sutherland, where I really liked that film, and then at the end it all turned out not to be true, and I thought, stupid film, so I'm not watching it again. Anyway, what does that say? Not free on Amazon here, but I'll check around. Oh, that's a bit poo, isn't it? It is here in the UK. It says watch with ads on Freevee. That's what it says for us, but never mind. But it's worth a watch. I did enjoy it. Right, I'm going to get out of here now. Another quite long show. Crikey, hour and 21 minutes. Sometimes I get these over with quickly, but obviously, I suppose a film I enjoy, I'll talk about more, won't I? But this is worth watching. Some great acting in it. And, some spooky scenes. I don't know what the budget was. I can't imagine it were much. Because it does feel, although it's it's a movie, it does feel a lot like like a BBC production. I know it isn't, but it does have that feeling. As I said, League of Gentlemen, Inside Number 9 sort of feel to it. But anyway, it's really good. What's that? I've just seen that. But yeah, so we'll leave it there. So thank you, Joshua, again for sticking around. Good times. What does that say? Oh, farewell, friend. Yeah, thanks for sticking around. Thanks to I forgot. Is it Harry at me? Thanks for popping in as well. I don't think you stayed very long, but never mind. Right. I know, by the way, what next week's film is going to be. Because I've mentioned it actually in this. Because it were on telly, actually. I was flicking through the movies channels, and I'm actually on one of the movie channels. I thought, I'll do that one next week. So I know what next week is. I'll tell you, next week's film is going to be The Woman in Black, the latest version with Daniel Radcliffe. I really, really like that film. That's a good film, is that? So that's another British horror film. And a Hammer film as well, wasn't it? From the new Hammer Studios. But anyway, so we're going to leave it there. So thanks again, Joshua and Ariadne, for popping in and into the chat. So, wherever you are, look after each other, don't have nightmares, and until next time, hang on, I've got to get ready. I'll see thee